Chapter 7, Part 2 of A Different Cowboy by Joe Jones. It had been 2 months since they had finally made it home. Every day since they had been back, Johnny had been drinking heavily. There was no kissing or touching at all at this point, and Tessa was nearly 5 months pregnant. Tessa had done her very best to comfort Johnny when Ranger died, and she knew he was just trying to drown his pain, but now the drinking had turned into an addiction. It turned Johnny into a stranger she did not recognize. He'd have outbursts of anger and episodes of depression. Then when he'd run out of whiskey, he'd stumble out the door to his new horse he named Danger, and he'd ride into town and spend 2 or 3 days at the saloon, leaving Tessa lonely. She would cry every time she would think about how the alcohol was beginning to tear them apart. Her frustrations only grew as Johnny would pass out on the floor and she would struggle to help him into the bed. She knew he said he used to drink a lot before she had came along, but he said he could handle it. Now it was evident he was no longer holding the reins of his life. It was like riding on the back of a runaway wild Mustang with no way to steer it. And that Mustang was headed to a cliff. Tessa would often cry and walk outside to pray about her situation as Johnny drowned himself every night in the bottle. But Tessa was growing tired of being treated badly, and she had swore to herself she would never let a man put anything before her. One evening, when Johnny was binge drinking, Tessa walked over to him and stood in front of him. Johnny sat in a rocking chair looking out of the window until she blocked his point of view. She stands there in her cotton dress with her hands on her hips and asks, "How long are you going to do this?" Johnny looks through her and takes another swig of whiskey. "Johnny!" she screams to him. He stops rocking and looks up at her. He stares at her and then laughs. "I don't find a damn thing funny, Johnny. You sitting here every day drinking your life away and it seems like you don't even care. Your best friend almost died that night. He comes knocking now and you won't even open the door. You won't talk to me. You won't touch me. I feel like you're not even here most of the time when you are here." Tears begin to stream down her cheeks. "I'm sick of this, Johnny. You won't even work right now." Johnny stands up angered and throws his whiskey bottle at the wall, shattering it. Tessa screams as he points his finger in her face, saying, "Nobody will work me in this town because they know that I'm with you." She walks away shaking her head and says, through her tears, "You don't love me anymore. You don't care." Johnny runs behind her, turning her around violently and says, "I do love you. Look at all the shit that I've had to go through. All the shit that I've had to put up with." Tessa screams back and says, "And look at all the shit you're putting me through, Johnny. And another thing, don't you ever put your hands on me like that again." He stands there looking at her angry. He looks over at the corner and sees his broken bottle on the floor as whiskey runs down the wall. "Damn it, woman! See what you made me do?" Tessa marches to the door and swings it open as hard as she can and demands that Johnny leave. "Get out of my house now!" Johnny looks at her and begins to stumble across the room and says, "You ain't kicking me out." Tessa, afraid he might hurt her in a drunken rage, sees Johnny's revolver on the table by the door and quickly picks it up and points it to Johnny. Johnny stops dead in his tracks and raises his hands, knowing she fully understands how to use it. "Tess, leave," she says through her teeth. Johnny takes a deep breath and begins to walk out the door past her as she keeps the gun aimed at him. His horse stands in the front of the house tied to a post. "Where am I gonna go, Tess? Go sleep under the stars. Go sleep on the ground. Go back to the saloon you stay at for days at a time. You're a cowboy, remember? Or has the drinking washed that part of you away too?" Johnny struggles to get on top of his horse. The world around him spins as he puts his foot in the stirrup. The horse moves slightly and Johnny falls backwards into a mud puddle. Tessa can no longer bear to see him like this. You were a good man, Johnny, but now I'm ready for a different cowboy. I am a different cowboy, Johnny yells as he struggles to pick himself up. Johnny makes it to his feet without Tessa's assistance. Fine, go find yourself a different cowboy, I don't care. Tessa looks at the porch and then looks back at him and says, You know, Johnny, a bum's biggest nightmare is a woman who knows her worth. And I know mine. Goodbye. Johnny looks up and yells, What did you just call me? He runs to the door and she slams it in his face. He beats on the door as she leans up against the other side. She slides down the door and puts her head between her knees. She is heartbroken by the decision she has just had to make, but knows that it's what must be done. Teardrops fall on her belly that is starting to protrude from her pregnancy. She weeps in prayer. Lord Jesus, please, Lord, help me through this. I got a baby on the way, and the father may not be in this one's life either. Lord, give me strength. You brought me through this. You brought me through a lot, but this hurt. In Jesus' name, amen. Johnny makes it to town on his horse and stumbles into the saloon. This is where he spends most of his time as the next 6 weeks go by without seeing or even hearing a word from Tessa. During this time, Johnny stumbles back into his old ways with smoking, gambling, and getting into fights on a regular basis. He realizes his life is going down and falling apart without Tessa's love, but he has too much pride and feels that if she wanted him, she knew where to find him. The more he drinks, the more sorry he feels for himself. Every time she crosses his mind, his heart begins to break. But pain turns to anger when his conscience tells him he's doing wrong, and he tells himself, she ain't around to give a damn whether I do right or wrong, so why stop? One early morning, Johnny has just walked into the saloon and sat down. Before he can even order a drink, he hears a familiar voice say, I thought I'd find you here. Johnny looks over to see Sam sit down next to him. Hey Sam, it's been a while, how's your leg? Well, the bullet hit me in the ankle. It went almost all the way through but got stuck in the bone. The doctor couldn't get it out, so I told him just leave the damn thing. Now I walk with a limp, but I still get around okay. Listen, Johnny, I heard what happened between you and Tessa. Yeah, things didn't work out. Well, Lupe and I are doing just fine. I built us a little house out there on the edge of town, where we're starting our family. Johnny looks over at Sam. Starting a family? Sam grins and says, That's right, Johnny. Lupe is pregnant. Johnny grins. Well, congratulations, Sam. I never thought I'd see the day. Sam nods his head and says, That brings me to my next point. You know, there ain't nothing in this world that would keep me from being in that child's life when it's born. Even right now, I don't want to miss a minute of my child growing in the womb. Johnny looks down at the bar. What are you saying, Sam? I'm saying, you love Tessa. She loves you. I'll have a child on the way. You need to go work things out with her before it's too late. Should have already been trying. She needs you, and you obviously need her. And that baby needs y'all. Johnny nods his head and thinks for a minute. You're right. I'll be back, he tells Sam. Johnny rides all the way back to Tessa's house. He climbs off of his horse and takes a deep breath as he walks up to the door. The door opens and Tessa peeks her head out. Johnny's heart rushes with emotion as he sees her face. He doesn't know whether to smile or cry. He takes off his cowboy hat and says, Hey Tess, I just wanted to come by and see how you're doing. I'm fine. Good, good. Listen, I just want you to know, I'm real sorry about what happened. You know, what I said and all the things I did when I was drinking. You know, I still love you very much. I dream of you every night and, you know, the way things used to be. And I was thinking, you know, if you'd let me come back home, we could be a family again, and I won't touch a drink no more ever again, I swear, for you. Tessa's eyes have tears in them, and she says, "That's the problem, Johnny. I need you to stop drinking for you, not for me." "Well, I can do that too, honey." Johnny hears a hoarse neigh from behind the house. Surprised, he looks at Tessa and says, "Damn, you bought yourself a horse?" Before she can answer, Johnny hears a man from inside yell, "Tuss! Who's at the door?" Johnny's smile slowly fades. "Oh. Huh. I get the picture." Johnny cuts her off and asks, "Is he good to you?" She pauses momentarily. A tear rolls down her cheek. She takes a deep breath and says, "Yes." Johnny can no longer hide the pain in his eyes. He nods his head and says, "Well, then I wish you both the best." The man inside screams again, "Tuss!" Tears stream down her face as she tries to force a smile. He knows she's lying about being happy and says to her, "Make sure you remind him that your name is Tess, not Tuss." And with that, Johnny hops on his horse and rides away. He comes back to the saloon and sits down next to Sam. Sam slides him a shot of whiskey without saying a word. Johnny looks at Sam and then takes the shot of whiskey. "You knew, didn't you?" Sam sighs. "Yeah, I knew." "Well, why the hell didn't you tell me, Sam?" "Because, Johnny, that's your responsibility to know what's going on with your family. She's carrying your child, not mine. That's your fiancée, the love of your life. But instead of trying to get her back, you've been up here drinking your life away every day while she's out there moving on. You don't think about how much you've hurt her. All you've been thinking about is how much she hurt you. She don't want him. She just wants to show you how much you've messed your life up and how much you stand to lose. The way I see it, you've got two choices, Johnny. Sit here in this saloon the rest of your life wasting away while the woman you love is making love to another man, starting a life with him, raising your child. Or cowboy up. Put the damn bottle down and be the man she's been missing for so long. When you make up your mind, let me know. Lupe and I live right outside of town in a shack near old man Crawford's ranch. You can't miss it." Johnny thanks Sam, and Sam leaves the saloon. Johnny spends the next week in the hotel room above the saloon, thinking and drinking. A million thoughts race through his mind as he opens a new bottle of whiskey. He takes a swig at it and looks at the bottle. The morning sun is just now shining through the window. He opens the curtains and looks down at the dusty street. It's time to be a man, he thinks to himself. He throws the bottle down, shattering it on the floor, and yells, "I'm done with you! You don't control me anymore!" He hits his knees right there and says a prayer. He stands up a brand new man and leaves the old one right there. He gets on his horse Danger and goes to Sam's house. He tells Sam and Lupe he's made up his mind and says, "I know she still loves me because she had tears in her eyes." And she's with that new cowboy, and I don't know if she's happy with him. I'm gonna go get her back. I'd like y'all to ride alongside me in case there's any trouble with that other cowboy. Sam agrees. And they ride to Tessa's house. Johnny gets off his horse and sees a note nailed to the door. He grabs it and reads, "Dear Johnny, if you are seeing this note, it's because I have decided to move back to Georgia. Georgia is my home. It's my real home. And my heart has longed to go back for 2 years since I left. Don't come for me. Our love has died, and I don't want you anymore. Signed, Tuss." Johnny immediately begins to bang on the door. He hears someone coming to the door, walking across the squeaky planks inside. A man opens the door. "Where is she?" Johnny demands. The man smiles and puts his cowboy hat on. It's the cowboy that she had chose over Johnny. "Well, partner, you must be Johnny. Tussa told me you'd probably come by here, eventually. Didn't you read her note? She don't want you. She left, in hopes of a better life there." "That's not her note," says Johnny. "And how do you figure that, cowboy?" the man says as he walks closer to Johnny on the porch. Sam and Lupe get off their horses and stand next to each other. "Well, a few clues tell me this ain't hers. One, she was a slave her whole life. She learned how to read but never learned how to write. 2, she was a slave in Georgia and cursed the very ground. She'd never go back. That's why she came to Texas, to get as far away as she could. And 3, her name is Tess. She would never sign as Tuss. So I think we both know who wrote that damn note, don't we?" The cowboy begins to laugh. Sam takes a step forward and says, "What the hell is so funny?" The man wipes his eyes. "This." The cowboy pulled his gun from his holster as quick as he could and shoots Lupe directly in the chest, standing next to Sam, killing her instantly. Johnny pulls out his gun to shoot the cowboy, but in a split second realizes he can't kill him or he'll never find Tessa. So he shoots him in the foot and the man falls. The man screams as Johnny yells, "Where is she?" The cowboy lifts his arm with the gun in his hand to shoot Johnny, and Johnny shoots the gun out of his hand along with 3 of the cowboy's fingers. He screams in agony. Okay, I'll admit it. I wrote the damn note. There was a group of men came by looking for colored folks in town. Ugh. I heard the news because they was paying $10 for every colored person we turned into them. Said that they was taking them back to a plantation in Georgia. What plantation? The Williams plantation in Georgia. Who is it that picked her up? I don't know. I couldn't see their faces. They wore white sheets over themselves. They said even though slavery had been abolished there, they ain't abolishing nothing there. A gunshot rings over Johnny's right shoulder, right into the cowboy's chest, followed by 5 more. You son of a bitch, he hears Sam say. Sam stumbles back over to Lupe's body and sits down. He holds her head in his hands, in his laps, weeping over her. Johnny, shocked by the scene, says, "I'm so sorry, Sam. I love you. I love you." Sam looks up at the sky. "Johnny, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to make that trip on your own. I can't." Johnny puts his head down and says, "I understand, Sam. He just took my whole family from me. She was pregnant with our child, Johnny. What am I supposed to do now? I never got a chance to say goodbye or tell her how much I loved her. I'll tell her to her face here in a second, though. Johnny, I wish you the best of life. I wish you the best of luck in life, partner. But this is where the cowboy rides away. I can't go on without her. She was my rock, and I was hers. I can't live without her. What do you mean, Sam? Don't talk like that. Sam weeps and pulls out his pistol. Sam, stop! Johnny jumps to his feet and begins to walk down the stairs from the porch. I couldn't save my woman. You still got a chance to save yours. He puts the pistol under his chin. Johnny runs at him. Sam, no! This concludes A Different Cowboy, Chapter 7, Part 2 by Joe Jones. Let me know what you thought about this chapter in the comments, guys. And as always, if this is your first time listening to the story, please go back to my playlist and listen to the first book under A Different Cowboy. Also, you can go back to the first chapter, part 2, and catch up on this book. And also, if this is your first time to this channel, please subscribe for the future chapters to come out. I try to write a chapter every week or two and get one out to you guys. This book should be going about 12 chapters. I will be moving on to chapter 8 after this. As always, I want to thank you guys for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for listening. And may Sam and his girlfriend Lupe rest in peace. And may God protect Tessa and Johnny on his journey to her, to Georgia.